Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, and welcome back to this next video. And this is another video in the series of videos on the insulin signaling pathway. In the last video, I've told you that when the IRS protein that gets activated, that is responsible for the activation of the PI3 kinase, and the PI3 kinase that is actually responsible for the formation of the PIP3, which is the phosphatidyl inositol 3,4,5 trisphosphate. So we have discussed the pathway up to this particular point. So once you have made this PIP3, what this PIP3 is going to do? When you talk about the function of the PIP3, one of its important function is the activation of a particular protein, which is known as the AKT, also known as the protein kinase B. So we are making PIP3 to get activated the protein kinase B. This protein kinase B is actually a serine threonine kinase. What I mean by that is that when this particular kinase gets activated and it acts on its substrate, it is going to phosphorylate the serine or the threonine amino acid in its substrate protein. Now, when you talk about this AKT or the protein kinase B, it is actually activated by this PIP3, which is found by the PI3 kinase. What this PIP3 do is that it is going to recruit specialized protein towards the cell membrane, and the proteins which it attracts toward the cell membrane should have a specialized domain, which is known as the plextrin homology domain, or for short you can call it is the pH domain. So what that means is that those particular protein which contain the pH domain, the PIP3 can recruit them towards the cell membrane. Now, this protein kinase B or the AKT that also contain the pH domain, that means that the PIP3 is able to attract this protein kinase B toward the cell membrane. So initially, the AKT or the protein kinase B that is present in the cytosol in its inactive form, because that is not needed. When there is no signal, you do not want the activation of the protein kinase B. So the protein kinase B is lying in the cytosol in the inactive form. But when the PIP3 that has been formed, that is going to utilize the pH domain of the protein kinase B or the AKT to attract it toward the plasma membrane. So because of the PIP3, the inactive AKT protein is now going to move toward the plasma membrane. Now, when the AKT that moves toward the plasma membrane, what happens is that it is going to interact with the PIP3 in the membrane. And whenever you talk about the cell signaling and there is interaction between the two things, that can have two meanings. That particular interaction can go for the inactivation of that particular protein, or that can go for the activation of that particular protein. So in this particular case, when the PIP3 that recruits the inactive AKT towards the cell membrane, that is going to activate it. It is not going to directly activate the AKT. It is going to facilitate the activation of the AKT protein. And how that is happening? Now, this membrane recruitment that is responsible for conformational changes in the AKT, and these conformational changes are actually making the AKT accessible to phosphorylation by other kinases. Now, two of these kinases, they are very important. One of the kinase, which is known as the PDK1, or the full form is the phosphoinositide dependent protein kinase 1. So this PDK1 is going to phosphorylate the AKT in its activation loop by a specialized at a specialized amino acid, which is actually the threonine 308. So in the activation loop, you have got the threonine 308, and the PDK1 is going to add phosphate group at this particular amino acid. Secondly, there is another protein, there is another kinase, which is known as the mechanistic target of revamycin complex 2. For short, you can call it as the MTORC2. So this particular kinase is going to phosphorylate the AKT at its C terminal at specialized amino acid, which is the serine 473. So you are going to phosphorylate the AKT at two specialized position, one at threonine 308 another at serine 473, and this is only possible because of the interaction of the AKT with the PIP3, and because of that interaction, these two kinases can access the AKT, making it active. So this dual phosphorylation that is going to fully activate the AKT, and when it is fully activated, what that means is that it can now phosphorylate the downstream targets. Now, there can be a variety of the targets for the AKT, for the activated AKT, but in this particular signaling pathway, we are only going to focus on the uptake of the glucose. So, how that is going to happen when the AKT is get activated? Now, in the cell, you have got the GLUT4 vesicles, and within those particular GLUT4 vesicles, you are going to have a specialized protein which is known as the GLUT4 protein. So, this is how it is happening. So, one of the key targets of the AKT is a protein which is known as AS160. What does AS160 do? So, if this is, say, for example, a GLUT vesicle, this particular GLUT vesicle is going to contain these GLUT4 proteins, and representing them by these cylinders over here. And this particular GLUT4 protein is the insulin regulated glucose transporter. What that means is that this particular GLUT4 protein is responsible for the transportation of the glucose into the cell, but this particular function is regulated by the insulin. Therefore, they are known as the insulin regulated glucose transporter. Now, what this AS160 do is that it is going to interact with these GLUT4 vesicles, and when the AS160 that interact with the GLUT4 vesicle, it is not allowing their movement toward the plasma membrane. So that means that the GLUT4 vesicle containing the GLUT4 proteins, they are going to stay in the cytosol, and they are not going to move towards the plasma membrane. So what you can see is that it is inhibiting the movement of the GLUT4 vesicle toward the cell membrane, and if the GLUT4 vesicles containing the GLUT4 protein, if that cannot move toward the cell membrane, you will not be able to take glucose from the exterior into the interior of the cell. Now, what the AKT, the activated AKT do is, it is going to phosphorylate this AS160, and this phosphorylation is actually responsible for the inactivation of the AS160. And when the AS160 it gets activated, what that means is that you can now move the GLUT4 vesicle towards the plasma membrane, and these GLUT4 proteins, they can actually come in interaction with the cell membrane, allowing the transport of the glucose into the cell. Now, when the AS160, when that gets inactivated, what happens is that this is actually responsible for the activation of the RAB proteins. Now, think of these RAB protein as guides. They are actually responsible for guiding the movement of the GLUT4 vesicles toward the cell membrane. When the AS160, when that is in the active form, the RAB protein, they are inactive, so they cannot move the, or they cannot direct the movement of the GLUT4 vesicle toward the cell membrane. But once the AS160 that gets inactivated, the RAB protein, they gets activated, and when they get activated, they can actually help the transport of the GLUT4 containing vesicle toward the cell membrane in the response to the insulin signaling. So the AS160 is responsible for the inactivation of the RAB protein, and hence the guides. So once the AS160 it gets inactivated, the RAB protein is going to get activated, and they are going to guide the GLUT4 vesicle towards the cell membrane. So if you can see over here, if this is the cell membrane, now the GLUT4 proteins that have been incorporated into the cell membrane, and what they do is, once the GLUT4 that has been inserted into the plasma membrane, the glucose can enter the cell through facilitated diffusion. For example, if that is the glucose present outside the cell, so once this GLUT4 that has been inserted into the plasma membrane, the glucose that can actually move into the cell, and that glucose can be utilized for a variety of the purposes. For example, for the production of the ATP, and that can also be responsible for the growth of the cell. So this is how the glucose that is transported into the cell utilizing the insulin signaling pathway. Now, in the next video, that would be a very short video of around 4 to 5 minutes, and I'll be summarizing the whole story of the insulin signaling pathway in a very quick fashion. So I'll see you in the next video.